What would you do if someone with power and money accused you of a crime you didn't commit just because you were poor? I'm not talking about a movie plot, I am talking about what happened to me, Malik. For years, I was that quiet, invisible kid, the one people walked past without ever really seeing. But 10 years after the day my world collapsed, I came back, not for justice, not for some fairy tale closure, but for the kind of revenge people still whisper about long after the lights go out. Let me back up a sec because the day it all began, I was 16 and walking through the marble doors of Sunville Academy, a place that might as well have been another planet compared to where I grew up. My mom cried tears of pride when I got that scholarship. I thought I'd finally made it, but Sunville was a world built for kids with trust funds, not lunch tickets. I'd sit alone in the cafeteria, a foil-wrapped sandwich from home on my tray, surrounded by laughter and the clink of silver spoons. And then came Chad. You know the type. Designer, everything, smug smile, always talking just loud enough for everyone to hear. That day, he jumped onto a bench, waving his arms and shouting, "My Watch Me Golden Watch and my earpods. They're gone." The whole room froze. You could practically feel the air suck out. Someone snickered. No one here would steal something like that unless Malik's still here, right? The laughter hit me like a slap. I kept my head down, praying it would all blow over. But Chad wasn't finished. He needed a scapegoat. He sold that watch himself, trying to impress his crush, but you think he'd ever admit that? Nah, he just played the victim and pointed at me. A teacher stormed in, demanded an explanation. Chad didn't hesitate. He said he wanted my locker searched. I still hear the sound of the lock turning, the click echoing in my ears. And there they were, his ear pods, right there in my locker, though I'd never touched them. Gasps, whispers, people moving closer like sharks scenting blood. Chad's grin was like poison. "I knew it was you," he spat. I stammered, cried, begged them to believe me, but the teacher just stared. Chad went further, insisted the watch must be hidden too. The principal was called. His eyes, cold and hard, looked right through me. "Why would you do this, Malik?" he said. I was sobbing so hard I could barely speak. Before I could even defend myself, Emma Chad's crushed stepped forward, voice dripping with contempt. "Isn't it obvious?" she sneered. "Because he's poor, just like his father." The words left me hollow. That was it. They sent me home, told me not to come back until I returned the missing watch. As I walked out, the whole school lined the halls, chanting, "Thief! Thief!" Faces twisted with mockery. When I got home, my mom held me and whispered, "I believe you. I know my son." But the nightmare was just beginning. Minutes later, a black SUV pulled up outside Chad's father, Mr. Augustus, stomping up the steps in a suit that cost more than our rent. "Where's my son's watch, you little thief?" he roared. My mom stood her ground. "My son isn't a thief." But Augustus wouldn't listen, called the cops on us right there. 2 officers dragged us away as neighbors peeked through curtains. At the station, Augustus laid out his story, said we'd planned the whole thing. They released me after a few hours, but my mom? She wasn't so lucky. They said we had to return the golden watch or pay for it thousands of dollars. We had nothing. My mom begged, even offered to work off the debt, but Augustus just turned his back. I was desperate. I went to their mansion, standing outside in the pouring rain, begging him to let my mom go. He stared at me with disgust, then ordered his guards to throw me out. Weeks passed and me, mom still in that cell, my hope fading. Finally, my mom made the hardest choice. She sold everything. Our house, our furniture, even my dad's old clothes. She cried as strangers carried away the last pieces of our lives. Still, it wasn't enough. One afternoon, I was walking nowhere when a car pulled up. Michelle, an old classmate, was inside. She asked what happened, and for the first time, I told someone everything. She cried. She let me ride with her to the tiny apartment my mom and I were renting now. She even came by the next morning, pressing an envelope into my hands. "I found the rest of the money," she said quietly. I asked where it came from. She just shook her head. "It doesn't matter. What matters is getting your mom out." I hugged her like I'd never let go. That night, I paid the last cent. My mom walked out of the cell and wrapped me in the fiercest hug I've ever felt. We didn't have to say a word. I was determined to go back to Sunville, to prove nothing could break me. But when I walked those halls, The whispers started up again. There he is, the thief. The teacher handed me a letter, cold and final. You're no longer welcome. I turned to Chad, desperate. He wouldn't even look at me. Only Michelle stood by my side, whispering, You're worth more than this place. That was the day I lost everything. My home, my school, any sense of belonging. My mom and I packed what little we had left and moved to my grandmother's tiny house across town. Life was cruel, but I made a promise I'd never forget what Chad and his family did. My mom and I worked cleaning houses, washing cars, doing whatever it took to survive. But at night, I studied, built things, taught myself how to code on an old, beat-up laptop. It was slow going, but every day I got smarter, stronger. And one day I knew I'd make them pay. 12 years later, Sunville's alumni gathered for a reunion at a fancy hotel. The place was draped in gold, packed with people dressed to impress. And then the entrance. I pulled up in a rusty car, stepped out in a plain suit, and walked into the ballroom. Whispers followed me like shadows. Chad spotted me and started laughing, rallying the crowd with sneers and jokes about some people making it by stealing. He thought he was untouchable, but I didn't come just to be laughed at. I came prepared. When Chad started bragging about his job branch manager at the country's biggest tech company, working directly with Jonathan Pierce, I let him finish. He even tried to call Jonathan on the spot to show off. Across the room, my phone rang. I answered. The whole place went silent. Slowly, they pieced it together. One classmate finally whispered, Wait, are you Jonathan Pierce? I smiled. Yes, I am. The shock was instant. Chad turned white. He tried to laugh it off, but then his phone buzzed with an official termination email from me. His knees buckled. Please, Malik, don't do this. My family needs me. My daddy sold his company to keep us afloat. I nodded. I know I bought it. He crumbled. Just then, police arrived, arresting Chad for his false accusations and lies all those years ago. Nobody defended him. The crowd stepped aside. After the dust settled, Michelle found me. She was still as kind as ever, her eyes full of wonder. She asked about my new name. I told her the truth. Malik was the boy who lost everything, but Jonathan Pierce was the man who rebuilt it all. She smiled and took my hand. We left the ballroom together, the city lights shining in the windows of my car afar, cry from where I'd started. You know what I mean? That night, as we drove away, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. The boy they once called worthless had become a man nobody could ever ignore again. Now, let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you have chosen revenge, or would you have just let it all go? Let me know in the comments, because some stories, well, they're meant to be heard.